Estados Unidos, México y Canadá.
The European Union, we will respectfully put tariffs on the cars. The United States will take in billions and billions of dollars into its coffers. Isn't that nice? Because you don't hear that.
Only from Carl Sagan.
Okay, yes, Sagan. But it'll take in billions and billions of dollars. But really what's going to happen is they'll make the cars in the United States. This way they don't have to pay the 25 or the 20% tax.
And could you spell
So I don't think you're going to have to use the tariffs too often, but there will be cases where you have countries that are just absolutely not willing to do what's fair and reciprocal, and in that case, they'll pay tariffs. And you know what? The United States will do very well. Either way, we do very well.
So do you think it'll pass in Canada, Mexico, and more importantly,
I don't know.
here in the United States?
I can't tell you. All I know is we made a deal. The highly respected presidents, and in the case of Canada, the Prime Minister, are satisfied with the deal. It's good for Canada, good for Mexico. It's good for all three. This is a deal. I'm not touting it. This is good for all three. That's good, and just that fact makes it good for us, but this is good for all three. But this is a much different deal than NAFTA, and this is much more of a reciprocal deal for the United States, which is really good. Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Are you okay on trade? We're going to move on to Kavanaugh briefly for the purpose?
No, why don't you just, we'll do the Kavanaugh questions. I mean, you talk about being treated harshly. We'll do that in a couple of, let's finish up trade because you have a lot of people that want to run over to the Wall Street Journal and start writing. Go ahead, please.
Can you take one from the Mexican journalist?
I can't hear you.
Take one from the Mexican journalist.
A Mexican journalist? Go ahead.
Yes.
Sure.
So you're going to keep the tariffs on steel and aluminum on Mexico and Canada?
Until such time as we can do something that would be different, like quotas, perhaps, so that our industry is protected. We are not going to allow our steel industry to disappear. It was almost gone. I'll tell you what, if our country kept going the way it was going, within 2 years you wouldn't have had a steel industry. We have to have a steel industry, we have to have an aluminum. You know, there are certain industries important. So we are working on that now. That wasn't part of this, but we will do something, and in fact, Bob, if you want, you may want to say a couple of words about that, because we were literally talking about that 1 hour ago.
Yes, great. Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I would say, first of all, there are two separate things as far as we're concerned. We know that there are grave interests to both countries. We are engaging in talks now with an effort to try to preserve the effect of our program and still take care of their needs. And hopefully we'll be able to work that out. But we are in communication with them.
And really take care of the needs of our steel companies. I don't want plants closing. They're hiring thousands of workers all over the country. I'm not giving that up.
But you get the assurances of President-elect López Obrador that he's going to keep his word on this trade.
Oh yeah, we have a very good understanding. Yeah, really good. Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Aquí acaban de ver en vivo y en directo a Jesús Esquivel, lo importante que resulta tener a un amigo, colaborador como Jesús Esquivel, el único corresponsal mexicano acreditado por la Casa Blanca, haciendo las preguntas importantes en la conferencia de prensa de Donald Trump en la Casa Blanca en estos momentos. Y bueno, qué bueno que la presencia de el periodista mexicano acreditado por la Casa Blanca se haga sentir, Toño, con preguntas que definitivamente generaron la respuesta acerca de los impuestos al aluminio que impuso el gobierno de Donald Trump tanto a México como a Canadá.
Era una pregunta que tenía que hacerse y ahí está Jesús Esquivel, una pregunta sobre los aranceles al acero y al aluminio y bueno, también sobre la participación que tendrá en todo esto Andrés Manuel López Obrador en las negociaciones, en estos acuerdos e igualmente en la relación entre México y Estados Unidos, ¿no? La relación que tendrá Andrés Manuel López Obrador con el presidente Donald Trump.
¿Seguimos escuchando, Toño?
Be your biggest concession to Canada and why you decided to make that concession. Number two, if you could dive in a bit more to your thoughts on Justin Trudeau. You talk about tensions. I wonder what you, throughout this process, what you've learned about him and what the state of the relationship is with him today and going forward.
Well, I think my biggest concession would be making the deal, because we are the one that people come and want to take from. I'm talking about every country. And that gives us a tremendous advantage in negotiating that we never used before with past administration. We never used it. Every deal we have is a loser. Every deal, you could look at almost every country in the world, almost every country. We have trade deficits. We lose with everybody. So I think my biggest concession was making the deal, because we could have done it a different way, but it would have been nasty and it wouldn't have been nice, and I don't want to have that. We have a great relationship with Canada. I think now it'll be better than ever. The only problem with Justin is he loves his people, and he's, fighting hard for his people. I think we've always had actually a very good relationship. It got a little bit testy in the last couple of months, but that was over this agreement, and I understand that. But no, I think Justin's a good person who's doing a good job. He felt very committed to his people, and that's what he did. And again,
está viendo y escuchando en vivo y en directo a través de Sin Censura con un servidor, Vicente Serrano, al presidente Donald Trump en conferencia de prensa en la Casa Blanca, en donde hace unos minutos participó también Jesús Esquivel, corresponsal de la revista Proceso en la capital estadounidense, único corresponsal mexicano acreditado por la Casa Blanca y colaborador de Sin Censura, con quien espero que tengamos la oportunidad de platicar en cuanto termine la conferencia de prensa, si es que el tiempo y la situación lo amerita. Ya estaremos buscando a Jesús Esquivel en unos minutos.
And the workers, they may be willing to do that for political, people or political purposes, because frankly, they'll have 2020 in mind. So far, I dream about 2020 when I look at what's going. They have 2020 in mind. They want to do as well as they can, and so trying to reject even great deals, like this is a great deal for our country, great for other countries, but it's a great deal for our country and great for our worker. I can't tell you whether or not they will obstruct, whether or not they will resist. I mean, their whole campaign is resist. I see their signs all resist. They don't even know what they're resisting. If you ask them, what are you resisting? Well, let me think about that. They can't ask. They had somebody on this weekend. They said, what are you resisting? And they were unable to answer the question. So, I can't tell you about delay, obstruct, resist, because right after this election, and I think we're going to do well, although history is not on our side. I guess in history, generally whoever has the White House doesn't do well in midterms, but the one difference is we have the greatest economy in the history of our country. I think that's a big difference. And that's one of our problems too, because people that went out and voted for me, and they would be voting for me if I was on the ticket, but I'm not on the ticket, but Congress is on the ticket. And I try and tell my people that's the same thing as me. In a sense, that's the same thing. Think of it as the same thing as me. But I think we're going to do well. I actually think. I mean, we have Senate races that weren't even in play 6 months ago. When I started looking at it closely, I won't mention names, but there were senators that were not in play. They were not even, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, numerous of them. They were not in play. In other words, let's not go here, let's not go to this state, 4 or 5 states. Now they're like even races. In one case, they're up 2 points. Now, who knows what that means? And, as you know, there are a lot of them are repression polls or polls that aren't very accurate, because I see polls that I know are false having to do with certain of the races. But we had areas and we had congressional seats, too, where I know it's going to be a positive outcome. But you look at what's going on, and it doesn't seem to be broadcast that way. But I certainly had that with my election. They were telling me I was, in trouble in certain states, that I end up winning in a landslide. And I knew I was going to win them in a landslide, but they wouldn't report it that way. You know why? Fake news. Okay, right
One
behind
last thing,
you.
Mr.
Yes,
President.
right behind you.
Do you believe that the trade agreement will be a major issue in the midterm elections?
Well, it shouldn't be. Look, it's a good agreement. These people, when I first did it, they said, oh, why don't you just extend NAFTA? They have no idea about business. Just extend NAFTA. That would have been a disaster. We're losing $100 billion a year in deficits, at least to Mexico, under NAFTA. But just look at the results, and a substantial amount to Canada, although a lot of people try and say it's pretty much even. It's not even. We lose a substantial amount. So, I think it's a very hard thing to defend, but that's all right. Look, I understand the world of politics, I think, as well as anybody. I haven't been doing it that long, but I actually have been, because I've been doing it on the other side. And I do understand, and, they can take the greatest thing ever done and try and make it sound as bad as possible. But this one's tough. This one, people are coming out for this one and saying, that's incredible what we've been able to do. Yes, behind you, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that you've answered several questions on trade, I'd like to turn to Judge Kavanaugh.
Do you have, excuse me, do you have a question on trade? We'll do one or two more questions on trade.
You answered several questions on trade.
Okay, don't do that. That's not nice.
Mr. President,
and besides that, somebody is before you. Excuse me, don't do that. Do you have a question on trade?
You answered several questions.
Do you have
on trade.
A question on trade?
My question is on Judge Kavanaugh.
Okay, please, yes.
You said
please.
the FBI should interview whoever that they believe is appropriate. Does that include Julie Swetnick, the third accuser? And can you promise to release the full findings from the FBI after they finish their report, Mr. President?
Give me your question, please.
Mr. President,
Give her the mic, please.
Thank you very much. Was border security or funding for the wall discussed during the negotiation, and who will pay for the wall?
Yes, the wall. We're getting $1.6 billion for the wall this year. We got 1.6. We have about $3.2 billion in the wall. We're doing a lot of work. People don't realize. I don't really want to talk about it because I could build it quickly at one time, which is what I want. But we've been building it over the last year and a half with $3.2 billion, 1.6, and we now have another 1.6. And I've got a big decision to make after the election as to whether or not we go for it. Because you know what? Border security to the people of our country, very important. The wall is a big factor in border security. And I really believe that the people of our country, they want the wall and they want border security. They don't want open borders like the Democrats want to have. They don't want crime pouring into our country. They don't want MS-13 pouring into our country. They don't want that. And I really think I have a very big decision to make sometime right after the election, very quickly, because you know what comes due after the election. Do I want to do it before the election? Personally, yes, but I don't want to do that for a different reason, because I have some very fine people that are running in close races, and it may affect them and it may not. It may be good for them. I happen to think it would be good for them. But border security for our country, our people want security. The women of our country, they want security. They don't want to have thousands of people pouring across the border. And I'll tell you what, they want to have ICE, because ICE walks into MS-13 and these gangs, and they treat them like it's just another day in the office. They're rough and they're tough and they love our country. And I'm treating ICE good, and I'm treating our law enforcement good. And the Democrats don't want to take care of our law enforcement. And the Democrats don't want to take care of our military. So we are going to have a decision to make sometime right after, very close to after the election is over, and that will be on border security and the wall, but border security. The wall's a big factor. Okay, do you want to do some questions?
But was that part of the conversation and the negotiation that just took
place? Yes, it was. Yeah, we talked about it. With Mexico, we talked about it. It was a big part, and certain things and certain understandings are had. At the same time, we don't want to mix it up too much. This is a very big deal and a very good deal for everybody, but border security and security generally is a very big factor. We also have drugs. Sometimes, and some people would say it's a very similar thing. But we talked about drugs with Mexico. That's a very, very big factor. Very, very big. We have a lot of good understandings, and we'll be discussing that with them.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, but it was a factor, absolutely, in the deal. Okay, let's go. Come on. You want to, I guess, get off trade. I don't know. People are falling asleep with trade. I think it's, to me, it's the most exciting thing you can talk about, right, Joni? Right? All right, let's go. Come on.
Thank you, Mr. President. In a tweet this weekend, you said it's incorrect to say that you're limiting the scope of the FBI investigation into Judge Kavanaugh. But your own statement on Friday made it very clear. You said this investigation must be limited in scope. So which is it?
Well, no, I didn't say anything on Friday. What I said is, let the Senate decide whatever they want to do is okay with
vamos
me.
A
and also
esperar a que el presidente también se pronuncie sobre el caso del juez Brett Kavanaugh. Pero, Toño, me llama mucho la atención la pasada pregunta que le hacen al presidente de Estados Unidos, Donald Trump. Seguridad nacional, el muro en la frontera, también fue mencionado, fue factor en la renegociación de este acuerdo comercial Estados Unidos, México y Canadá, y dice sí, Donald Trump. La mujer le pregunta, ¿quién va a pagar por el muro en la frontera? Y Donald Trump no es claro al decir quién va a pagar por el muro en la frontera. Ya no vuelve a decir que México definitivamente va a pagar por el muro en la frontera. Pero ¿qué se negoció en torno a esto? Donald Trump dice, sí fue un factor de negociación, pero no nos queda claro cómo fue un factor de negociación. ¿Se incluyó algo del pago del muro en la frontera en este acuerdo comercial México, Estados Unidos, Canadá. Eso es lo que no nos queda claro con la respuesta de Donald Trump, a menos que tú pienses otra cosa.
No, y sabes que ya en lo especificado que tienen las autoridades mexicanas, este nuevo tratado de libre comercio, bueno, acuerdo comercial, como le llaman ellos, acuerdo comercial, no especifica México pagando por el muro, aunque Donald Trump sí habla de 1.600 millones de dólares para la construcción del muro. ¿De quién va a proporcionar esos 1.600 millones de dólares de los que acaba de decir Donald Trump? No lo sabemos. Como bien lo mencionas, Vicente, Donald Trump es ambiguo al decir quién va a pagar por el muro, punto número uno, y si el pago del muro está incluido en este nuevo acuerdo comercial entre Estados Unidos, México y Canadá. No lo dice, simplemente habla Donald Trump sobre aumentar la seguridad en la frontera y dice que va a haber una política, una situación que va a ocurrir después de las elecciones de medio término este noviembre. Habla de algo que va él a imponer después de las elecciones, que a él le gustaría hacerlo antes de las elecciones, porque podría beneficiar a muchos de sus, de la gente que él apoya, a los republicanos que él apoya, pero que le han recomendado que no lo haga y como que quiso decir así de, bueno, y no quiero hablar más al respecto porque ya verán ustedes después de noviembre.
Así es. Bueno, estamos al pendiente de lo que salga de esta conferencia de prensa de Donald Trump y sus declaraciones. Insisto, dice al final de lo que usted estaba viendo en vivo y en directo desde la Casa Blanca que sí, el tema de la seguridad en la frontera, el muro en la frontera, fue un tema, un factor, así lo dice, it was a factor en las renegociaciones de este acuerdo comercial Estados Unidos, México, Canadá. ¿Cómo? Eso está por verse. Enrique.